Welcome back, Skigglers, to another episode of the Skids and Giggles podcast. I am Pascal, and I'm joined by my co-host Bryson. How's it going tonight, buddy?
All right, here we go. 55, Schnapsal. I'm good. How about you?
Yeah, I'm very good, very good. We're also joined by Greiner. How is it going?
Yeah, superb. No, and congratulations to you guys for your Schnapszahl.
Thank you.
I missed a glass of schnapps in front of me then.
Oh, it's being delivered.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for taking the time for us tonight. We're really stoked to sit down with you. I guess before we start diving into the topic for today, maybe let's just lay out for the listener that may not quite be as familiar with you as others. What kind of mountain biker are you? What brings you to this sport?
I'm mainly like a average dude on the mountain bike, I would say. I mean, I started quite early. I grew up in the Emmental, at the beginning of the Emmental, close to the Bernois Alps, so hilly region in our backyards. And I still remember when the buddies and me, I don't know, when I was 10 or 11, we were cruising around in the forests. And because my dad, he was a road cyclist, so he had always several road cycles. So he always said, yeah, Adrian, you can take my old road cycles. So I was following my buddies on the road cycle down the forests in Oberdiesbach, the Kücku. It's quite a famous sketchy trails now up there that some guys were building. And then when I always came home with flat collie tires, my parents just said, hey, it's time to get you a mountain bike. So I got my first mountain bike when I was around 12, and super proud, Ferrari red, a Giant.
Nice.
But for me, mountain biking was always about the experience, being out in the woods, having small adventures. So I was never racing. And for me, it was more a tool for having fun and adventures with the buddies. And then I was getting more into mountaineering, ice climbing, ski touring, snowboarding, all these different sports. So I was not fanatic about it, but I was always keep on going with that. And then when I came to Zermatt, we moved here because of ski instructing. So then former girlfriend, now wife, we came up here. And then I was ski instructing during the winter. And in summer, I went once to the ski school director and asked him, what do you think about mountain biking? Should we not build up something like this, guiding or so? And I said, new school shit, that's nothing for here. And so I said, okay. Then I start my own company here with guiding. And so then I also went into the guiding business for with mountain biking. I also got then certificated as a Swiss cycling guide. Even got then as an expert and was there also teaching other guides. So I was always more on the side of experiences. So I think that was the main focus. So I was never a racer or something. And style-wise, also therefore, I always stick to the enduro thing. I mean, even I remember, when everybody was riding the Sunday, the Iron Horse Sunday. Perhaps you remember those times. I already had like a 7-point or a 6-point, Iron Horse 6-point. This had like a 6-inch of travel. I tuned it up with the Manitou suspension to 7 inches, and this was really but with the air damper, and also in front I had a Marzocchi Sat C. I think it was a M1 or C, I don't remember, but it was also air spring. So I brought the bike down to like 14 kilo, but with 7-inch, so like 17 centimeters of travel. So I think I was quite early in this enduro thing. Head angle, super steep still and everything, but it was a sick bike. So I really was mainly always in this all mountain enduro, if you want to put me into a segment. For sure, I had my times where I was downhilling, and I was never into endurance. I was a lazy guy.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just a regular mountain biker then. So
Yeah, the normal dude, as I said.
there
The
you go.
normal dude.
That's all. That's all that matters. And I guess tonight we are sitting down because, of course, we heard Zermatt. We know a lot of people from Zermatt. We've had guests from Zermatt. You've been recommended as a guest from a former guest, Nick Vicky, because we always ask our guests like, "Hey, who do you think we should have as the next one?" And then he nominated you. So
Mhm.
I'm super stoked that we could make it work. Almost 2 years after to today. Um, so today you are heading Bikeplan as one of your many business adventures. Um, can you talk to us a little bit about what is the basic premise of Bikeplan? What do you guys do, and where does it all fit in the Swiss mountain bike scene?
Yeah, Bikeplan, we are like a regional developing agency or company that helps destinations to adapt to the changing society and therefore also help to adapt uh, to that new trend of mountain biking, not only in tourism but also in recreation, sustainable mobility, and so on. So we see mountain biking as a big trigger for move society forward. And I think it moves anyhow, but also Bikeplan wants to make sure that um, this movement goes on a sustainable path. So that's a little bit the thing, but mainly we help destinations to evolve. So we get asked, our clients are like cable car companies, municipalities, cantons, regions, and so on. My profession is I'm a scenographic designer, so it's about experience design. That's what I studied at the School of Art in Basel, and I think Bikeman is also a little bit a manifestation of the knowledge of building projects, professionalize, adapting to languages of the professional world, but on the other hand, also have an understanding for the guest, for the experience, for the average dude, as I said before, because I'm perhaps self an average dude, and and even with my background as a ski instructor and so on, I was working many years with guests, so I think I got quite a good feeling what's valuable and or what the people are looking for, and so that's a little bit also the vision that we have. I think every place, every destination have their pearls in the landscape, and we try to connect those pearls with the string or with the trail to a whole experience. And for sure, we also are keen that this pearl chain helps the economy, the local economy, but also in the social aspects, environmental aspects to make a better setup for the place.
And you got, I mean, everyone can look at the homepage, and I mean, you got a pretty stacked team of very experienced professionals. So obviously yourself, you have the experience from design, but you got project managers and you got other experienced professors. Can you talk a little bit about what kind of skill sets you've brought together as Bikeplan?
It was always the vision in Bikeplan to have a very wide range of professional people that come together, because I think the more people you have, or the swarm intelligence is very important to make nice projects. So this was always my dream, to have an interdisciplinary team. Everybody brings his expertise. So I think we achieved that quite from the beginning. I mean, we have like spatial planners, we have like environmental engineers, like business guys. Um, so very wide, but I think that's also the plus for us to bring into a destination, that we not only looking mountain biking as a simple topic. It's very complex to build also like a business model for the destination that suits, to build so that the business model doesn't harm the nature too much, but is still good fun for the guests and therefore brings economic benefits as well. So I think it's a very complex thing. No, I think you recognize it well. We have a super nice team, and one thing is the skill set they have, and I think the other thing is really the passion that we have about mountain biking culture. And and the understanding for that. And that's also often perhaps a little bit the challenge we have as Bikeplan, especially in the beginning. We work often emotionally and we want to bring the destinations forward and so on. And sometimes if it gets too slow and so, it can be frustrating. But yeah, that's perhaps a little bit the drawback of our team, that we are sometimes too emotional. And we need to look that, I don't know if you can say that in English, but in Switzerland we say if you have your Herzblut, like the blood heart or heart blood. And yeah, we always need to look, we're always on the edge to bleed out. So because it's so much heart into the projects, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Wait a second, Pascal, what was that sound?
I started using that sound whenever we wanted to say something about our social, or where you guys can find more information about the Skids and Giggles podcast. We are currently most active on our Instagram, where you can skid right into our DMs and follow along at Skids and Giggles, and you can find our website with all the relevant links and info under the URL skidsandgiggles.com. Also, if you guys like what we're doing and want to know what's up, just give us a follow on Spotify, hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to great podcasts. Finally, sharing episodes you enjoy on your socials or a heartfelt 5-star rating on your favorite platform goes a long way in helping us reach more cool people like you. Right on, with all of that out of the way, let's get back to the show.
From my impressions, all is good at Bikeplan, but what I wanted to do is kind of spin it into more of a give the listener a kind of and also a realistic impression as well. So, is there any case or project which you can speak about where you had to turn away the project, or you had to say no, or maybe for some reason things didn't work out? Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, sure. In Bikeplan, we have very flat hierarchies, also in the team. In the last half year, I was, or the whole team was working very hardly on internal structures. So we changed now the whole structure of the company to a sociocratic model. It's like a holacracy, but a little bit more flexible. And but we always had that culture. It was very important for me because, from the beginning. So I always listen also very hardly to the team. And I remember one case we had. It was from the Arabic part of the world, where we got contacted if we can do like an offer for a master plan and so on. And then this part of the world was very hardly discussed, and my team said, we don't want to work there, too much topics going on. For me it's a little bit different because I traveled the world a lot. I mean, I was once driving by car all the way to Japan and back with my wife. We traveled 1.5 years through all Ukraine, Russia, Mongolia, Siberia, and then came back over the Silk Road. I was working for many years in the Himalayas as trekking guide, Nepal, and all these different, or Tibet was my main focus. So I know that there are different cultures and that there are politics involved, if how people understand different cultures or how they should understand different culture to benefit some politics things. So you can steer people with fear, that's for sure. But even though, I wanted to keep the team happy, for me it wouldn't be a problem to go there to working. But as I said, we have flat hierarchies, and so I think it's important that everybody feels comfortable and also working abroad in difficult circumstances. So this was one example where then at the end we decided, no, we don't do it. And another trigger was also that I called my dad. My parents had an architectural office, and he said, be careful there. He had a friend, a good architect friend, that worked down there. At the end, it was just pain in the ass. They didn't pay and blah, 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 and a lot of contracts. And so we skipped that one. And perhaps it was good. I heard then from the guys who went then down there to work that it happened exactly as my dad said. At the end, it was really hard to get the money out and everything. So, yeah.
There is that old proverb, right? Where you close one door and another one can open.
Yeah.
So perhaps it allowed Bikeplan to open much more successful endeavors. So
perhaps even not that, but I think perhaps it just had to be like this. I'm a very flow orientated person, even though I am often happy. Yeah, sometimes you get like a sign and then you just go with it. But then, funny wise, I mean, 2 years ago, we get an approach, for example, in the same region from the NEOM project. I don't know if you heard about this city with the Hyperloop underground, this big long city in Saudi Arabia. It's all sustainable, CO2 neutral, blah, 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 but also a little bit on the edge, I would say. Also, what happened to the local people there and so on. You hear rumors, but anyhow, we said, look, if we can help to build such a prototype of a very sustainable city, and even though if it's perhaps a little bit forced now into the landscape, but it can show that the city can work just with the Hyperloop as a spine. And then there were the middle layer with the robotics, AI was delivering goods, and then the upper layer where the people live, and the top layer should just be walking and biking and cycling. So no cars needed for the whole city. And it should be like a multi-million city. So there then we decided, no, look, I think you also need to look forward. If a state has so much money and they want to spend it into innovation, why not joining and try to bring innovation forward on our planet? So even though, perhaps the money was not made on the best way, but at least they use it now for a better. So yeah,
future thinking.
but it's funny now we work there again. Then in the same area.
Because future thinking
just with another.
It's like future thinking, right? It's like what could be in the future? How could we live our lives maybe 100 years from now or so? And it's a really tough concept to like actualize and like think of yourself in that right now. So there must have been some specific things you learned from that project. Were you able to take those and put them into things that you're developing concurrently? Like
perhaps not from that specific project. I always get inspired by new ideas and new movements, and also my travels. Just in November, I was in Dubai for a convention, like tech convention and so on, where you see already like manned drones and Hoover bikes and all these different stuff. I think in Switzerland we're very spoiled to live. What I realized there is in Switzerland we're very spoiled to live so close to nature, and it's such a nice natural environment. There everything was man-made, and I think it can work for people. For me, it wouldn't. And that was also something that I recognized it there. But on the other hand, it's also interesting, that people can live in such man-made environments and also feel comfortable. People were happy there. So I think it gives you inspiring. I don't know. Perhaps we plan trails in 200 years on the Mars. I don't know where the whole thing is heading. I think so. But now we drift a little bit away. We're still Bikeplan and not space plan. So no. Let's come to the ground again.
Exactly.
That's the inspiration. I think important thing that is there is that society is moving, and we need to move. We need to evolve, And I think Bikeplan tries to help to steer that movement into a sustainable setup.
Definitely important.
And so that means so maybe just to lay that out for the listener, right? So yes, when we talk about Bikeplan in Switzerland and developing destinations, then we mean something like a ski resort that so far has not thought about mountain biking in a sustainable way or in a way that it could present an opportunity for the economy. So that's what we think about in Switzerland, but somewhere else, Bikeplan could mean something much more futuristic, as you just described before, right? So kind of, okay, how are we using bikes in a city? How are we moving people around? How are they using bikes for recreation? And so that those are all parts and elements where you guys can be involved.
Exactly. Yeah, but I would say, our normal work, or what we mainly do, is really like helping destinations. I mean, we often work in like more rural areas, like in the Alps or so, and I think there we really have the vision that we want to keep people in those landscapes. I think it's important that not everybody moves to the cities, but therefore they also need jobs there. They need something to do. There need to be a purpose also in that regions, and I think there we see mountain biking as a big trigger, and especially also in that shift now from winter tourism to summer tourism. It's hard work because winter tourism is quite an old fat industry a little bit, that got a little bit lazy in the 80s and the 90s. And I think change is always difficult, but I think we need to do change. Otherwise, on a certain point, I always use the example, many of the smaller destinations, they already run with the substituted snorkel, but the water is already overhead, and so we try to bring them again on the surface, and they can see the horizon and move into a new direction. So that's a little bit also to get rid of substitutes. And I mean, we are in a lucky situation in Switzerland that we have those substitutes, that the cities are helping, or the stronger parts of Switzerland are helping the weaker parts, and so on. We have a super nice system there. But I think what we try to do is help that the region can help itself to find a new direction, new goal, new purpose. And therefore then also, I mean, and perhaps to even break it more down to to hands-on thing, I mean, Bikeplan is mainly also doing like master plans. So we do like strategic planning. We lay out where the next destination can move in the next 10 years, not only in the factor of trail, but also on the local scene, on accommodation, services. On the other hand, also on the nature experience, transportation, restoration. I mean, we have so much culture in our regions, how to bring that into new light, monetize also that. So that's what we do with those master plans. And then, but we also help destinations to break that down into single tasks, prioritize that. Bryson, you're a project manager, so I think sounds very familiar what we do. We are also the nerdy planners a little bit, but I think it's necessary to pack that in pieces that you can swallow. And then we even help destinations to get approval for their trail projects, or trigger, for example, bike hotels, or trigger or adapt the transportation systems. And then also we even developed the application where we help then also with the maintenance management of the trails, and like a trail management platform. That's then the last piece where we are getting close to the ground. We also do like quality control and so for the trail building projects. But what Bikeplan doesn't do is build. There we have then our partners like Trailworks, Velo Solutions, Flying Metal Crew, all the other guys. And we are happy that we have such a good partnership and relationship with those guys, because I think it's also important that everybody can work where their strengths are. And as I said, we are more the nerdy guys in the background with the flimmering computers and trying to bring everything into a structured manner. And those guys are then super important for the trail design and the implementation, the building.
Absolutely. And for the really interested listener, you have a really cool thing on your homepage. It's called the 30-day email course, where you can learn all about the different challenges and practical examples for the work that you do. I thought it would be interesting to maybe pick out one or two of those courses that are in that email course, and just to illustrate a little bit, kind of where the challenges are in your work, and where you spend your most effort. So maybe can you talk a little bit about, for example, mountain bikes and the environment? Do you have a practical example where where you can maybe explain a little bit what the work is that is involved?
Yeah, I think mountain bike and environment, the challenge there is always to find that rich line. I mean, that you, on one way, bring people into nature or the environment, sensibilize people over that. And on the other hand, with bringing people into nature, you also destroy nature. So we're always a little bit on that rich line, and we try there to find the sweet spot. And the more people you want to bring into that spot, the more solid the trail needs to be built, the more damage you do. But on the other hand, you also save the nature, because as soon as you then have like desire lines or shortcuts and so on coming in, even more space get damaged. So I think that's a little bit the art of how to bring those aspects together. So also there, it's very important to know what is also the purpose. For example, if we work in a protection zone, for example, here in Zermatt, we had like planning one trail in a BLN-Gebiet, that's a national protected area. And but also in the purpose of the protection area, there is one or two sentences that say this area should also be accessible for people to enjoy that area. So we also were taking that up, building like a technical dossier around that aspect. But then we're still looking in the area itself. There were like habitats of birds or other protected plants and so on. So there we just need to be more careful, if we work in a protected area. But yeah, at the end, it's just like a question of the detail of how deep you need to dive in. So does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that means we're talking about, yes, on the one hand bringing more people to the mountains, but on the other hand we're also talking about protecting the mountains, and it's all about finding the balance between protecting nature, bringing people in, respecting other mountain users, and obviously the environment and animal and wildlife, etc., flora and fauna.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think there it's also important. You also brought up a nice other aspect. It also goes about social aspect. I mean, sustainability is a triangle of social aspects, economical aspects, and environmental aspects. So in all our work, we always try to find that middle sweet spot. And for example, if we have too much social stress, if coexistence didn't work, both people on the same trail, for example, if you have a cable car bringing up mountain bikers and hikers at the same time, so it's just already crowded over traffic, I think it can just make sense to split that, and then perhaps you give a little bit away of environmental aspects, but therefore you solve the social aspects. And same with the economical. I mean, you can also say, then turn the cable car down, but how many people work for the cable car? How much is the destination dependent on that? So I think it's always this triangle. And for sure, when we work, I mean, every square meter in Switzerland has at least 5 flags already sticked in, I mean, one for sure is the owner, but the other are also like environmental protection, social conflicts, hikers, hunters. We can also argue if hunting is a social conflict or an environmental conflict. I mean, it's also a culture, a hobby, On the other hand, it's also important to regulate populations. You get me a little bit, and what we try to make happen is to navigate all those different flags. And I always say if we can make everybody 90% happy and no one 100, then no one feels cheated, and then we have a very good solution.
The good old 80-20 rule.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. Pareto principle
Right.
works also there. Yeah.
Absolutely. But I think what would be cool, and I guess that all is driven by your experience in Zermatt, right? Because a lot of the things that you talked about right now, Zermatt is almost like this. It's almost like its own laboratory of different challenges, right? So it's a traditional ski resort. There's a lot of nature protection areas. There's also but a big hunting lobby. It's also in a very rural part of Switzerland. But I think what is so cool about Zermatt and what you guys have done in the valley is it's not only about the destination management in terms of the lifts that go up the mountain and the trails that are being built. It's also this entire ecosystem, to use a platitude, right? is this ecosystem around it, from the local bike club and the events and touring companies and the hotels. And we had world-class racing in Zermatt. We had bike festivals in Zermatt. It's really, so I think in that sense, Zermatt is a really good example of all the things and how they can work together to bring out the best that mountain biking can be. Hopefully for the environment, for society, and for the economy. So, but yeah, is there in all of those different elements and all of these different factors? Maybe can you identify kind of what the success factors are?
Yeah, I think also there it's like Zermatt was really the first project we made a master plan, or I was then even doing it mainly by myself. My first office was somewhere in a basement I rented for $100, and I didn't have a window in it, but I was there captured in and working on the master plan here. And I think there the important thing is really to have, we always use like a destination radar, we call it, where you have those different aspects that I explained before, like local scene, services, all these. So I try to analyze the whole destination, where it is and where it should improve. And then the nice thing was with Zermatt, after the enrollment of the master plan, Bikeplan then also got the contract to do like a coordination platform for the municipality. So we were hired by the municipality to coordinate and roll out that master plan. And there, as you said, all those measures that you said, or these outcomes, were then mainly triggered out of this coordination platform. So I think paper is one thing, and the strategy and everything, but how to bring that things into paper, you need someone that is permanently pushing. And I think that's also one of our strengths. Now, meanwhile, we have like several of those coordination platforms running. One in Thun, one in the Jungfrau region, Gran Montana we helped. And then even we did one for the whole canton of the Valais, where we worked more with on the over-regional level for that. And I think but it's a super important part. You need someone who's a carekeeper of the development, and try to trigger, have like every year workshop with the hotel association, try to sensibilize, bring new technologies into the hotel. And I think, for example, also in those 5 years when we started, there were like 8 bike hotels with the self-made label they had. And then at the end of that 5 years, we had like, I think, 38 bike hotels certificated with the Swiss hotelery label that we also helped. We were part there also in the development team of that. So I think just to show one aspect, but if you ask me about the secret, I think one of the secret keys is also the local scene. And I think, you mentioned the bike club and so on. And I think that was really also one of the first tasks we tried to trigger. Severin Schindler, who was working then with us, He was then at the beginning, he was even part of the bike club. He was like the vice president, helped those young guys that were around to structure themselves, build an entity, get the courses running, getting funding in, and so on. And I think that was super important, because I think the smiles of the kids, they can change a society the fastest.
Fully agree.
And I think also first they come home. I mean, there are kids of a hotelier family or whatever. So the parents see, wow, look at that, super nice. And then perhaps the parents go out the next weekend with them riding. For sure, the kids-friendly trails were a big factor in that as well. That's why we made first those flow trails, But then they also go on, I don't know, they have a family weekend, they go to the grandparents, perhaps they are in politics, they see the smiling kids, perhaps they try once a e-bike. So I think the whole thing softens up, and kids are really a key there for this adaptation. And we also say the culture is also growing in the destination. I think in 10 years, you don't need to teach Zermatt how mountain bike culture goes, because then those kids are the owners of the hotels. And in 30 years, they are into politics. And then we anyhow have the whole thing rolling.
That's a very powerful message.
But that's how all changes happen. And I think the kids are really key. And that's why also at the beginning, trail-wise, we really focused on kids-friendly infrastructure. And the bike club was there a huge trigger, and also a big thank to those guys who were always doing those courses. With the kids, I think miles of smiles. That's the claim. And with the smiles, you have then the movement in it. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's a very, very, very powerful message, and wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah, you touched back on this future aspect again, where kids are the future, and they will bring us prosper, I guess, if we treat it right, if we nurture that. So it's actually really cool. It's a really cool topic.
Yeah, and also then in Trail Love, for us, when we did like the Trail Love festival, I was also the president then or tried to trigger the whole movement there as well. For us it was super important to have like kids races, bring the kids on the ground. They got inspired by the pro racers from the EWS and so on. They get the shiny eyes. I'm so proud now also what the bike club does. I think this year they started even like a bike club Mattertal squad team. So Nicole, the wife from Nick, she takes now a group of kids that are keen to get closer into racing. She takes them now on the Swiss Enduro Series or on the downhill races. So the whole culture starts to grow, and it's nice. Yeah, culture gets massaged into society. The mountain bike culture. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of one of the key innovation pieces of the Swiss Enduro Series, right? Is this chaperoned U15 category? It's a bit of a side note.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great way to bring kids into the sport, because right now, and that's one of the questions we get a lot is to in kind of our messages, is kind of like, can you dive into the development paths for enduro, and should my kid get into a club, or which discipline should my kid go into to get better at enduro? And I was like, well, there is nothing so far, right? So it's kind of things like this, like the Swiss Enduro U15 series, and Nicole making that effort to bring those kids to those events, that then drive those development paths, right? Because I think back to my youth when mountain biking was just about to get Olympic, and then you look at the systems and paths and development programs that have been put in place since then, right? And it's a completely changed world. So because people saw Thomas Frischnecht in Atlanta, and it was like, cool, so cool, I want to do this too. And then they saw Nino, and they saw Flo Vogel and all these guys, and they're like, it's so cool, I want to do this too. And so it's those things are so important, and obviously, well done, high five. This is really cool.
No, but I'm also proud there. I still remember when, I don't know how long it was, like 4 or 5 years ago, when we were sitting together with the Gehrig twins and Max Chapuis, and we were brainstorming, perhaps there would be space for a, then we still tried also to bring the Helvetic Cup perhaps more in that position. We also first had the Helvetic Cup here at the Trail Off Festival. But I think it was fair enough. They wanted to keep it small and more focused on the culture, the core culture of enduro than on the racing. But then even like the racers like Max Chapuis or the Gehrig twins, we were always dreaming, we should have more professional series. And perhaps if we can bring that to grow, there will also be space then for bringing the kids in. And I think hopefully the 20 years we have a new Nino Schurter, but in the enduro thing, and that then the local associations, clubs get inspired by that person, and we can drive that culture forward again. And I think enduro is just a nice culture because it's so easy accessible. For me, it's not a racing style. It's really more about the culture. It's like the freestyle culture in winter, when you go around with freestyle skis and so on. It's
just different.
Yeah, exactly. But in many heads, enduro is like just racing. But I say, look, my girls, I have two girls, like 10 and 11, and they wear already like baggier pants, knee pads, the shiny glasses they get, and so they're living already the culture. And I think a big part is that we had Trail Off here, that they got inspired by those riders, by the Gehrig twins. I still remember when my younger daughter, she was riding with the Gehrig twins once, and I was scared when she came back. She made such a big jump, with those two ladies then. Yeah. So I know I'm really also stoked what evolved out of those crazy ideas we had several years ago.
Thanks so much for sharing your secret tip. Yeah, so I can see why, like you're going to have projects internationally because you have this kind of homegrown effort that's evolved, and now it's a master plan, and it can be, you can take all these elements or pearls from it and put it into different locations across the world. It must be your formal training as a scenographer that allows you to see that kind of, to see it like this.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah. But I still think what I'm also always excited, and that's why I get bored very quickly. But with Bikeplan, I'm still always excited with new projects. As a scenographic designer, you always focus on the recipient, who gets the information. I mean, we work with like 4D with time as well. So, but that's just one aspect. But we also want to get a message over to the recipient, and I think that's where you need to understand the recipient very well. So you need a lot of empathy, and I think we see like schemas that roll out in all different destinations, but every destination is different. It's like a custom-made suit that we do for all the destinations, and that's what's keep me, the technique behind and the methodic that we developed really works well all over the place. And I think there also Zermatt was a really hard learning ground. I always say in Zermatt everything is super high octane. The whole thing is very intense, and many of my staff got really tired to work in such a high octane environment here because there is a lot of money involved, there is a lot of forces involved. But it's a super nice learning ground here, so we learned a lot for sure.
And then applying that internationally, of course, will be second nature, I guess, since you're already used to so much high octane.
Yeah, exactly. But what was also the difficulty, and now we don't work in Zermatt anymore. Our mandate was then finished after 7 years that we worked here, and we still help with the construction management and so on, but not anymore with its coordination platform. And for me, myself personally, it was also a little bit of relief. It's always much more emotional if you work on your home soil. And even for a professional, it's very hard to get enough distance. And I think, but I wouldn't want to miss that time. It was very intense, as I said. But I think now we can apply that knowledge to all the other destinations, but with a very professional distance to it. And I think that's also important. As I said, that's the thing with the hard blood. At the beginning we were often too close in, and everybody gets like, shit, what happened? Why? For every step forward we do a half one back. For every step forward, the half one back. It's like walking in deep snow, But it was good training for your mindset and for your muscles as well. So yeah.
If you contrast the experience from all the Swiss projects that you've done, and you take all the international projects that you have also done, because you have done many international projects, how are they different and how are they the same?
I think the core, they're very similar, because I think what is nice, or what we found out with Bikeplan, or our methodic that we developed, really works on the base fears and hopes of people and society. So I think it's not stuck to laws, or how you need then to implement it, what's the right law, but it's really more based on fears, hopes, dreams, and so on. And I think that helps. I think that's going all around the globe. And I think we found a really nice methodic how to help there. What we realize sometimes, our Swiss methodic, because in Switzerland, we work very participative. We have a lot of inclusive workshops where we try to get all the voices in, then also get everybody involved in the consensus process and so on. And we realize that often abroad, this is a little bit over-engineered. People are not used to talk to all the different topics or get involved. For example, in Scotland, we did the planning for the Highlands, like 7 regions there, like from Fort William to the Carnegie Arms. And I remember that the project manager, Graham, just said, "Hey, Adrian, super nice methodic you have for Switzerland, but this is totally over-engineered for us. I mean, probably you did the most professional planning in mountain biking there. It was perhaps even more professional than the office that does the highway planning, So I think we need to adapt then perhaps to the grade of I think it was especially because Switzerland, we are so used to try to get people involved from the beginning. So then I think also we gain momentum in the long term. And I think perhaps that's sometimes a little bit over-engineered for other countries.
It's just not the culture, right? So I mean, I guess you need to have that radar to make these cultural differences, right? So here, everything is discussed to death, and until consensus is found, and then once consensus is found, then we move forward. And because we found consensus, then later on you're not discussing that much anymore. But that is just very different to how other places and other cultures operate, right? So some of them, they don't really care about consensus because, whatever, I own the land and this is what I want, and you go and do it, right? I pay you X money and this is what I want to have at the end. And they don't really care about the consensus anymore. So I guess that's that's what you learn in different projects and walks of life, right? So, but it's an interesting observation for sure.
I think that's one thing, and also then with the output. I mean, in Switzerland we like to work very detailed, Also in the planning perspective. I mean, we developed in our master plans. You get then first you get like the recommendations for all those different aspects of a destination, but then you also get like a route plan, and that is already very detailed when we do a master plan in Switzerland. And then we also have like a measure plan. So we standardized like six different measures that we use as standard. Like 3 are in existing trails, from this trail is already good for that client that we see there, for that frequency. Measure number 2 is you need to adapt a little bit, perhaps with rock armoring or whatever, or change some wet areas. And number 3, you need already like a permission to change. So there are more substantial changes. And then 4 is then already purpose-built trails, then flow trails, and then like the whole jump line thing and so on. So, and also there, I think we realized perhaps our methodic was often a little bit over-engineered, but I think that's perhaps the Swiss habit.
Yeah, exactly.
And also that makes us sometimes struggle. I mean, especially when we also work now we often get now also asked by cantons if we can help them to, and I think we need then to look that we keep our the flying height, of the planning where it should be, because we already scaled through the whole level from stratosphere down to the grain. So I think it's important, and that's also something we needed to learn to stay on the flying height that is demanded, and not always want to do the best, and already dive in because it's for the better. But then often also the people get so much information that they are just scared then suddenly of the topic. And so that's something that we also need to learn and adjust. Bring our complex strat or methodic into simple words.
Okay. What have been your favorite projects that you were part of?
Ooh, favorite ones. I still like the Bike Valley project. That was really nice. That was also, it was parallel growing with the Zermatt project, where we did like all those master plans for like Aletsch, Aletsch, Goms, Verbier, Crans-Montana. We did like a concept for the whole canton where we say, look, we want to give all the destinations their individual master plan, but the master plans are connected into the functional rooms. So you need to understand, in Switzerland, we have like the political rooms, like municipalities and so on, but the mountain biker doesn't care. He wants to ride in functional rooms, He wants to get from that experience to that experience, from the Aletsch Gletscher to the Goms, to the shuttle bus, to then the Gibidum Pass, and so on, and I think that was really nice to work on such a big scale, and to have an overview over that functional rooms, but then pack them into the individual master plans again, so the destinations can run with their own speed. But when they were doing that, they were also building the whole all-regional route. And because we already defined so many details in the planning, like as I said, the measures and so on, how they should execute it, often we also then jumped out. Some local engineers were then executing the whole things. But at least now you feel that the trail going through, it doesn't change at the border, the quality of the trail. It really goes through. And I think that was really nice project. Another one I really like is the Thun, Entwicklungsraum Thun project. I think it's like with 40 municipalities. There we get asked by the region. There was the Bike Park Thunersee. They had a super nice vision, trying to push, like knocking up on the roof, like, hey, we want more space. And then the planning region came to us and say, how can we use that momentum and pack that into a consolidated planning? So we did then also the master plan, talked with all those 40 municipalities. And so we were like, if there are so the cogwheels, we tried, and the cogwheels that come from bottom up, look then that the top-down cogwheels from the canton or the municipalities get sharpened so that they bite into each other, and then we gain momentum. And I think it's a really nice example how we could achieve that. And now even as I said, we have now a coordination platform, also in a project consortium, and now even we give like work out to the association, the local association, because I think it's important that those guys can still carry on their momentum, and they are also much more enthusiastic when they talk with the landowners and so on. We provide them with the technical data and the plans and all this, but those guys should keep their momentum because also there they have so much passion about their region, and I think it's a nice example how we can make this nice hybrid between passion, bottom-up passion, and then top-down planning and processes. And we could even beef the whole thing up with public funding. So also there, top-down money that came in because they saw, wow, that's a nice project. It's not only about tourism, it's also about making the place more attractive for people who want to live there, for companies who want to build up their base there, and so on. So really nice project. And the last one, perhaps also, if we still have time, just break me down if I'm getting too long. No, but we have super nice. Yeah, we even have more, but one super nice one, perhaps from that point of view, was in Norway, where we did a master plan for a destination. A nice setup there. There were like 4 landowners, and they owned the whole mountain. So they were also regulating hunting and everything. And they realized that their business model that they were having, they were selling like the Norwegian dream, have a plot, a cabin, a plot, a cabin, a plot, a cabin. And then suddenly they realized, look, if they go forward like this in 20 years, they don't have plots anymore. They sold everything of their destination. So then the whole process started. Then we got involved also to help them to plan like a trail system, a summer product. And super nice approach or super nice idea they had. There was a really nice project leader there that helped the destination. And he had the vision that we plan first the trails and then the housing projects around, and also make more centralized housing projects so that we can keep the landscape qualities around it. So there we worked then with Glenn Jacobs, from Australia, brought him in because I like Blue Derby and all those trail centers that we saw there, a little bit analogies with that. So Glenn is now building the whole thing, huge project. And
legendary trail builder.
Yeah. Glenn is still the man.
Absolutely.
No, super nice. You should go there and riding. It's called Hogwarde. And what was also nice, they said they anyhow want to invest like, when we started there, they said they want to invest like 100 million into ski tourism. And we told them, look, guys, if you invest 100 million into ski tourism, you're even not par up with your closest neighbor. It's a valley, the Hallingdal Valley. It's like the Valley, or you have destination beside destination fighting each other. Who's the better one in ski tourism? So we said, look, yeah, for sure you can do that, but then you're just like, one of many, and even not the best. But if you take 10% of that, 10 million, and put that only into trail development first, then you will be like the shit of Europe. Because nobody, even like Zermatt or so, they didn't spend like 10 millions just in trails. And I think then you pop up, you have the innovation boost, you pop out in medias and blah, 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 blah. And then you can still invest the 90 into the skiing industry.
Absolutely.
But you claimed a quite important claim. Yeah, innovation claim. So that was also a nice one. Yeah.
Wow.
And, cool, yeah.
Okay.
And the last nice one I also have, if we still have time for that, it was in Croatia, where we did the planning for Maliloshin. It's a small island. You know where the World Cup was? Downhill World Cup. Perhaps you remember that. Super nice destination. We got asked if we can help them, not only with mountain biking development, but also like sustainable mobility, leisure paths, cycling paths in general. But one aspect that was really sticking out for me, we were there, they were very scared because they have very fragmented ownership structures. So all the parcels are very small, and even those parcels that, often they belong to 10 people, and half of those 10 were already like moved to Australia or America or Switzerland or wherever, So it's very hard to get like permissions. And then I remember we were zooming into the spatial planning plans of the zoning plans, and we found like, wow, shit, man, there are everywhere public paths, between, because there were, in ancient days, there were all like olive trees, fields there, olive farming, and the paths in between those private fields, they were all public land. So we found that huge network, it's huge, of public land. And I remember when I was there going through the bushes, you still saw the stone walls on the side. And it was like finding Machu Picchu, I said, hey, man, this will be the biggest trail center I've ever seen. And it will be so easy to build because it's everything on public land, It was really nice. That was a nice, you feel a little bit like an explorer. That was always my dream as a kid, being explorer. Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly sounds you found gold there.
Yeah. Trail gold. Mm-hmm. At least hero dirt we found, yeah. No, cool.
Bryson, you got some more?
Let me see. I was thinking, actually, there's so much good stuff. A lot of information as well. It's it's quite inspiring, actually. Just the whole conversation in general. We got your background and how you applied it to what you're doing now, how you came through kind of passions from one to another, roaming the world, basically, kind of understanding. So all of these aspects have all like concluded, or not concluded, but they've come together at least. And you're able to build something upon this. Actually, one thing that went through my mind is I also have this kind of fetish for like open source. So if you were to be able to like kind of unleash your master planning ability to like the entire world so that they can create sustainable, socioeconomical balanced, locations or societies, let's say, would you be up for that? And to add on to that, right off the bat, would you think that there might be some specific way to communicate it, but also make sure that people don't abuse it, or maybe are allowed to kind of use it to everyone's advantage? I don't know. It's kind of a utopian. Mm-hmm. Here we go with the futuristic talk again, but I guess you're the right man to talk to about this kind of thing. Like mm-hmm. You have a good future-looking aspect to you.
Yeah. No, I'm a totally fan of like open source, decentralized models, resilient models. I think there is also a threat to it. I mean, I would, to answer your question, I would be open if we can make sure that the quality stays the same. I think the methodology is one thing, but I think the humans that still run that methodology, and also I think the big thing is really this anticipation process, that you start to or get into interaction with your people around. And I even realized in my team, some people are super strong in that. They have a good feeling for their surrounding and moods and so on. Others don't have that quality, but therefore are super strong in other things, keep making things. I'm super bad in making things done. I'm super good in, talking, feeling, and looking ahead. But I'm super bad in bringing things to ground, puzzle them together. So I think if we could make sure that you have the right people at the right place, I think it could work. But if you put then the right people on the wrong place, I think it can also weaken the whole system. So it's always a little bit, how I think if I still run or steer Bikeplan, I can still look at the culture, that everybody's placed there where his strength is. I can make sure of that, and this culture stays open, and the process not only get like mechanic, but how can I provide that quality control when I'm not in charge anymore? So I think there I see a threat to it. Yeah, but yeah, I think it's a super nice topic, and my news project, perhaps also to make a little bit of transition there, perhaps goes in that direction. It's called Trail Foundation. I was now structuring up a foundation for the last half year that will provide public information exactly about that. We did we run a project that we developed for the Department of Economy of Switzerland. It's called the Swiss Mountain Biking Project. I think you also had already some people in the podcast working about that. Then from IMBA side, now the whole project will continue also in the foundation side, and I think there we make information public, how to how to develop destinations, or how also local movements can avoid how to say slower paths and so on, how you can be the most efficient. So that's a little bit where that whole thing is heading. And I think the association is now working on that, and also try to bring tools for associations or local movements, and so how to also finance those infrastructures. I think that's the next step, how to bring in the money into those projects that they deserve, and also how to bring in funding into those projects that we can, or that the local people can then make them as good as the system is requiring them. So as we discussed before, if you have more traffic, you need a more sustainable trail, or more rough trail. So I think, and for that, I realized in my work now, in my career, that often the pain point is always the money, how to bring the money into this new movement. And I think there we were building now up a structure how to solve that. And we use then that quality criteria of the Swiss Mountain Biking Project as quality criteria for that trail fund that we want to build up there. So it will be a very nice project, also very decentralized build up. We want to give the power to the people and to the local communities. So I think there we try to achieve something in that direction that you mentioned.
I love it. It sounds very wholesome.
Exactly.
Is it open for associations to make an application with the mountain bike project, or
not
where
yet.
is it yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
We really need to.
Okay.
I mean,
that's for the next podcast.
Yeah, that's for the next podcast, I guess.
Okay.
I guess. No, we're still in the. I think it's very important to build up structures there, good governance, especially if you build a system up that should then also be enable for local communities, or should be run in a local setup. So I think the governance aspects and all this need to be very clear, especially if you handle money, and especially if you so that's why I want to first build the whole thing up, structure the whole thing up, make sure that it's bulletproof. I don't want to have weak points in it and so on. And I think that's perhaps a little bit the difference, to the master planning process. When you ask me about that, I think the master planning process is still a very human-centered process, for sure, the funding and so on, but there it's easier to build up a system that cannot misused, So, yeah.
It's a little bit more of a proven formula, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also you can make the criteria very narrower, safer, and so we're still building. So please wait a little bit with the applications. We will let you know if we are ready, when we are ready. But I think we're working on something super big. Just yesterday, I had a call with Gary Fisher. He's super stoked about it. He said, look, this is really a problem. Pressure on nature rooms explodes also in the States. He lives in San Francisco, and he says, there's just not enough funding to help that recreation path or systems to do it right, and to handle that pressure. On one hand, that's also the purpose of the foundation. On one hand, we want to bring people into nature, that's for sure. We see there huge benefits in health, physical, mentally, all different kinds of helps. But on the other hand, we want to ensure that the whole thing stays sustainable, not that it collapses under us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't want to create a bad name with it, I guess, right?
Once again,
you don't want to end up creating a bad name in the end, because if it goes too far left or right, then you can say, it's because we followed the plan and this and that, and you didn't really follow it. So it can be really a gray area in some ways.
Yeah.
If you're not careful, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's, I think, we want to give help there. But I think you need to structure it up very carefully if you want to make it a self-running system. Because as soon as you unleash it, it goes. It's like AI. Be careful letting the genie out of the bottle. It's
even the best AI so far is transformer function.
No. I don't want to compare trials to AI. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah, we draw the line.
No. Cool. Yeah, superb. Right. No, but I think that could answer. Hopefully, that could answer your question a little bit.
Certainly. Well, until the next podcast, of course.
Yeah, looking forward. The next Schnapszahl then. Yeah. No, just joking. But then we need to get a real good bottle of schnapps in front of us, like a Genepi or something.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Cool. Okay. Before we move over to the closeout, is there anything you wanted to add? Anything else you wanted to say?
No, I just want to thank you guys for the super interesting conversation and also the work you do. I think it's super important. I think you're a part of that culture that's developing. And thanks a lot. I'm happy that I could add something to it. I hope it was not going, the flying height. I hope we found the right flying height. It was not too futuristic and not too boring on the ground. So yeah, no, but thanks a lot for having me here and having the chance to explain a little bit.
Yeah. You're very welcome.
Yeah, our pleasure and privilege to be the voice.
Right. Normally we have 3 closeout questions, but I think today we just want to use one. And we normally ask our guests to imagine themselves as a magician. Mm-hmm. And you have a magic dropper post. And with that dropper post, you can make the sport of mountain biking better for anyone. Mm-hmm. What would you do?
That's a hard question, man. I just have one wish, huh? And how much time I have to make the mountain biking better? What's the time horizon?
No, that's open.
Instant or instant or
it's an open question. Yeah. Let your imagination run wild.
Okay. I think what would help if everybody can feel a moment of flow. We know with that moment and can relate it to the nature experience that they have on their mountain bike. I think that would change a lot. Also to people that don't do mountain biking yet. And I think that flow moment is something that is triggering us. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is very powerful.
It's essential.
Yeah. Sorry, perhaps it's a little bit abstract, but I think that's really something that, yeah.
Thank you very much. If our listeners want to reach out to you, they want to learn more about the Bikeplan and where they can find more information, sign up for the email course, or just send you an email to give you a big contract for their destination, where can they find you?
Yeah, they can find us on bikeplan.swiss. That's our domain, and there we have a nice page of the team, so they find my contact points there, and also on LinkedIn But I also have a super nice team. So not only contact me, also contact my team. They're all around the place. And yeah, I think they're in many things, they are better than me. And so that's also often I will then steer to the people that are better than me in what you ask or what you demand if you come to our place. Yeah.
Thank you again for your time. It was really, really cool, mega interesting, and I'm
Super.
really stoked.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot for the great work. Super. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks for listening. We really hope you enjoyed this episode.
Pascal and I put a lot of heart and soul into this podcast, and it means a lot to us that you've listened to it. We'd also really appreciate if you shared it with the people that you know and care about. Until next time, Skigglers.